Let's hop into our next segment, Brant. This is all college football, and I'm going to call this segment Burning Questions that we have now after week 2. Brant, I'm going to start here with Michigan. Is there a reason for us to be concerned right now about Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards and the lack of a running game? Or is that an overreaction?
I think that's 100% an overreaction. This is still one of the top 5 offensive lines in college football. Those are 2 of the best backs in college football. I know I'm seeing a lot of stack boxes, whatever. I don't think we've seen a lot. Okay, Dave, we're not X's and O's guys. I know that. But I don't think we've seen them unleash anything yet to try to get these guys some rushing yards. And have we seen them really play a third or fourth quarter, Dave? No, not really. Not really concerned about it.
I'm not concerned. I don't think that's the right word, but I will say I think it's fair to ask questions right now. Like, it's fair to ask is, Donovan to me right now, you can't doubt Donovan Edwards after what he put on tape last year. Like, you don't just all of a sudden get worse from busting out those runs that he did against Ohio State and into the later part of the season when Blake went down. But I think what I'm seeing right now with Donovan in particular is kind of what I saw at the beginning of last year, which is just his patience to hit a hole. And it's like once he finds that hole, he's gone. But he just seems eager to get through it, and it's not necessarily there. He's not being a patient runner, and that was kind of a critique of him early on last year. So I'm not concerned, but I think it's just an area that you'll see him once again continue to grow in this year. People are talking about Blake and does he look a step slower? I don't think so. I think there's something to the fact that this guy's coming off a knee injury. He could have went to the NFL. I think there's a little bit of hesitancy. It looked better in this second game. But I think as these weeks go on, Blake's going to continue to get better and better. And no, I'm not concerned about Blake and Donovan, but I think I don't want to say some of the criticism, but some of the questions are fair right now when you're looking at these two, and especially knowing that you've been touted as having the best or one of the best offensive lines in the league. And I don't think that offensive line, at least in the run game, is quite there yet. They've got to continue to gel a little bit more with some of these transfers that came in. But no, I'm not concerned. All right, next burning question that I have for you. Another one, is there a reason to be concerned? Is there a reason to be concerned the lack of Will Johnson on the field and the no appearance of Rod Moore?
Yeah, that's a big concern. One, because those are probably our 2 best secondary players. If you consider Mike Sanders still, and nickel, a secondary player, then absolutely maybe they're all top 3, whatever. But yeah, there is major reasons to be concerned there, especially about Will Johnson. What are they considering this, Dave? Like a stress fracture situation or whatever? I don't know. Those are always murky. I don't like the sounds of any sort of stress-related situation where just rest only helps it. That does worry me. Rod Moore, he's the best safety on the team. I'm just going to say that. He's absolutely the most instinctual. He comes up in the box all the time. He's small, but he packs a huge punch. Rod Moore is kind of the captain of this defense, too. I do consider him that. And Will Johnson is the blockbuster player of this defense. So, yes, absolutely. We need both of those guys, and we're going to need them by the time Rutgers comes to town.
I completely agree. I'm very concerned. Very concerned, because I don't buy any Harbaugh update or coaching update on, oh, these guys are working through something, and, oh, yeah, you might see them. You know who I heard that about all of last year? Nikhai Hill-Green. You know who I never saw hit the field last year? Nikhai Hill-Green. I don't love it. I do not love it. They are your 2 best players in the secondary by far, and it's very, very concerning. I don't buy either just, well, they need 1 more week of rest or 5 more days of rest is going to help. Like, what are we dealing with right now? It's so hard to know with the lack of transparency. But yeah, I'm absolutely concerned. And I think Michigan fans should be concerned too until they see those 2 guys out there on the field starting and playing through a game. So yeah, I am concerned about that. Not early on in the season, but come October, both these guys better be on the field. Last burning question around Michigan, Brant. Is J.J. McCarthy on the path right now to have the best season ever for a Michigan quarterback?
Yeah, he is. we've talked about this before, Dave. Not a very high bar, but absolutely he is. And not only that, he's definitely right now, I think, in the Heisman discussion. Not only because of his accuracy numbers, but he's putting up some yards. He's putting up some touchdowns. He's doing his thing. And, he looks like a Heisman contender. Like, he's not making dumb errors. He's not doing the things last year where he's scrambling around, throwing the ball behind his head, trying to throw it out of bounds. Like, he's not doing weird things where your head scratching plays and you're like, dude, you've got to stop this. He looks like an actual Heisman candidate. And I know we talk about this all the time in September, right, Dave? Heisman contender for Michigan. But this is a dude that's actually got starts under his belt from last year. He's been to the college football playoff. He knows what it takes to get there. So I think there is a very good chance that not only does he break records at Michigan this year, but he also is in New York for the Heisman.
Yeah, I think JJ is the not the lone bright spot, but he's the bright spot of this team so far. He's putting up insane numbers against lackluster competition. The bottom line is that the timing of his throws, the way he looks back in the pocket, so comfortable, so in sync with every guy on the team. I'm all in on Visor JJ. Like, I don't know if it's the visor or what. He just looks like a Heisman. So yeah, I'm buying the JJ hype. That surprised to nobody who's listened to this podcast over the last couple of years. But yeah, he is certainly the bright spot of this Michigan team so far, and it is just a beautiful thing to say that about a quarterback at Michigan. Finally. All right, Brant, shifting from Michigan, but a few more burning questions. Without getting into the details of Michigan State and Mel Tucker and that whole situation, is Michigan State better off without Mel Tucker, or will this just further push back the program? Now, mind you, as it stands today, I know it was reported he had been fired and whatever. He's just suspended, right? Like, that hasn't changed up till now? Make sure I didn't miss.
He's just suspended. They got the hearing on October 5th and October 6th.
Okay, so just to reiterate the question then, is Michigan State better off without Mel Tucker? Let's just say he's gone, or will this just further push back the program?
So okay. This is kind of a two-parter. So I will say long-term, this is good for Michigan State. I do believe that they come out of the contract, probably the best case scenario. Maybe you settle with him for $8 to $10 million or something, and you're able to pay him off and just kind of part ways with Mel Tucker, whatever. For the short term, no, this is going to be really bad. And I think you're going to see it this weekend probably. The moment that they fire them, Dave, the moment that they fire Mel Tucker, do you know what they can do? Those boys can hit the transfer portal. And I think that you're going to see some guys hit it pretty hard. They can bail on this team. Pulling in Mark D'Antonio, I'm not sure about that. I don't know how well that plays. I think for the short term, this is a complete mess. And with Michael Penix coming to town, that's not a great thing for your program to be going through when you're trying to face one of the best quarterbacks in the NCAA.
Definitely in the short term, yeah, I completely agree. I do think that this is best case scenario for Michigan State to get out of this contract. I don't see the direction of, regardless of this incident and what happened and what's decided in court, I don't see any clear direction of this program. I mean, Brant, you say everyone, if he leaves, everyone's going to hit the transfer portal. That may not be the worst thing. This team they're not good. They're not talented. And it's really kind of crazy to say that, when you look 2 years ago where they were at, it just seemed like a totally different tune. But they're not a good team right now. They're not a good program. So they need some new leadership, some new something to happen. I don't know what this Mark D'Antonio thing is. I don't know what it looks like. I mean, they've already built the statue of Mark D'Antonio, or they are building it. He's highly respected in Michigan State, and rightfully so. I don't know what that means once again, but I think this is actually going to be a good thing in the long term to move on from Mel Tucker. I just don't see where this is going. And he hasn't done himself any favors either. Even before this, we talked about it recently on the podcast. He doesn't seem confident. He's got a lot of excuses, a lot of they need real leadership back there. And I think Michigan State will be happy in the long run to have somebody other than Mel Tucker running this program. Brant, Two more questions here, and then we'll get into the bets. Is Alabama finally taking its first step back under Nick Saban, or is Texas just really that good this year?
They are fully taking a step back. Jalen Milroe is he's a running quarterback. He is not a throwing quarterback. He's not a dual threat. I've heard people call him a dual threat. This dude is not a dual threat. He can't throw the ball. He's not a very good throwing quarterback at all. He is very fast. Don't get me wrong. And you can beat some teams that way. You can win 9 games that way, sure, because you're Alabama. You have some of the best offensive and defensive lines, whatever. But guess what? You're not going to win the SEC with this team. So for me, that's a step back for a team like Alabama. When you're talking about in early September, we know that they're not going to win the SEC. Yeah, that's a step back. And that's an indictment on Saban. There's no way around it. You had a chance to bring in a quarterback. You chose Tyler Buckner, who couldn't even get the job. I mean, we're talking about a Notre Dame reject, Dave. That you went out and hired Tommy Rees as your offensive coordinator. People are head scratching like Notre Dame's offense wasn't very good last year. Why did you bring this dude in? I don't know. I don't get it. Thoughts on Texas real quick? Yeah, Steve Sarkisian is that dude. And yeah, it's probably hurt Saban to be like, that's an offense that I would like to have. And all of a sudden, I can't have that. Steve has that down in Texas. And they came in there. Dave, that game was only close because Texas made a few mistakes to keep it that close. I think Texas was that much better of a team. I wouldn't say much of a better program right now, but they can be. Saban's slipping here.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like the Quinn Ewers shaved head or what it is. The mullet went bye-bye, and that program is just... Yeah, they look good. I don't know. I mean, I think I actually put Texas in my college football playoff prediction before the season started. I don't know if they're that good, to be honest. They definitely were the better team than Alabama, and it was clear, just like you said. I think the score was a lot closer than it actually was. Brant, I think Nick Saban teed this up for a while. When all the NIL stuff started happening, do you remember his whole stance on this? He was concerned about college football. He was concerned about that it would further create the big dogs and then everybody else would be left behind. But really, Brant, we all knew all along that Nick Saban knew that there was a lack of NIL that was going to happen at Alabama. And guess what, Nick? College football's caught up to you. I do. I think that's exactly what's happening to Alabama. You're seeing these recruits that they've just perennially gotten go elsewhere, and I think it's absolutely tearing him up. And I think that we are seeing the exit of Nick Saban. I don't know if it'll be after this year, but I think his days, or at least his years, are numbered under Alabama. I think he's ready to get on out and keep his legacy intact. All right, Brant, last burning question before the bets. You got to save Coach Prime for last. Brant, is Colorado a real threat to win the Pac-12 this year?
Dave, what is going on in the Pac-12? Is that the best conference in college football right now? I think we both have to agree. Yeah, it is right now. Now, you might be able to say, no, I still think the Big Ten or SEC are probably better than them. But based on results on the field, absolutely you can't say that. By far, Pac-12 has been the best conference. I think that Colorado is probably a top 3 team out there right now. It's wild. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like, I know I've never seen anything like 80 players that have come in brand new, gelled like this. All of a sudden, we're 2-0 and beat 2 Power 5 schools. This is unreal. They are a legit Pac-12 contender. I can't believe those words just came out of my mouth. Prime has shut everyone up. Props to Coach Prime. He deserves all his flowers. He's got them out there working, doing their thing. Dave, they were the Fox Big Noon kickoff. Correct me if I'm wrong, but is Boulder, Colorado not in the Mountain Time Zone?
Did you see that Buffalo run out onto that field and how electric that place was?
Okay.
Dude, the energy around that team right now is like where have these Colorado football fans been when they were winning one game like a year ago? Like, it is absolutely insane what's happening right now.
So that's what's funny is, like, you said that about the electricity in the stadium. That's 10 a.m., right? If they're kicking off at noon, that means it's 10 a.m. in Boulder, Colorado. And that place was bumping. I couldn't believe it. People are bought into it. I'm bought into it. I'm
Shadur
down.
Sanders, dude, Travis Hunter, those two right there. I'm in on.
I
Yeah.
loved it, man. And maybe Nebraska's not any good. I guess we really don't know. But they absolutely beat the brakes off them, Dave. I'm into it, man. I think they got the late game this weekend. They host Colorado State, I believe. I'm going to be watching it just because it's going to be Saturday Night Football, and I want to watch Prime's team.
Hey, Dion kept the receipts, man. When Matt Rule was talking about, Dion and what he was doing and all these transfers not being good for college football, Dion kept the receipts, and so did his son as well. I just love it, man. Dude, it is hard not to like them right now. I mean, some people would argue and be like, I cannot stand like just how Coach Prime is and the arrogance and this and that. Dude, that swag of that program, like I'm about to buy myself some Colorado gear. Like I am so bought in on this team. I'm pulling for them. I love this storyline and I'll be following it closely. All right, Brant, let's get